can be free. I take the weight on my shoulders. I feel the sky come down on me. And I can't hold it much longer. Gotta let go so I can be free. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Wow, still have not recovered. FTLIVE on a Monday. Braun, Kratz, and Pierzynski on Stadium with some good guests coming up soon, including a little Blue Jays therapy session with our friend Mike Wilner. But I think today is a good reminder, AJ, that money isn't everything, but Shohei Ohtani, the Los Angeles Dodgers, and Major League Baseball all have one thing in common. They are incredibly wealthy.
Listen, Scott, money isn't everything, and it can't buy you happiness, but it sure shit will buy you stuff that can make you happy.
Mm-hmm. And for the Dodgers, that was Ohtani.
And with $700 million, you can buy pretty much anything.
Mm-hmm. It's deferred, though, so you have to have discipline, okay?
I mean,
no, you don't have to have discipline. That's the point.
Right.
I.e., Allen Iverson, i.e., Bobby Bonilla. You can spend all of it because it's going to keep coming in.
That's true. Right. And technically, and we can get into this at some point because there were a couple like finance bros online who were like, that's not exactly how deferrals work in terms of what it's worth now versus what it's worth later. They were trying to actually go against it, saying that present value is actually higher than what they're putting out there. But whatever it is, it's fine. It's for salary cap, luxury tax purposes. Yeah, whatever. $700 million will go into the bank account of Shohei Ohtani over a blank year period. And I'm not going to break down every single iota of the finances, but let's get right to it because obviously we're going to get very Shohei Ohtani heavy today and then the aftermath, but we will charge the damn mound right off the jump here. So AJ, Kratz, and me were bringing on guests left and right over the weekend. Everyone will remember where they were when the news broke. I was on a beach sprinting back into an apartment building to go do a show. You were golfing, right?
Yeah, I was golfing. I was standing next to Justin Verlander, and I told him he should have learned to hit. He would have got more money.
What did he say?
He just started laughing. He's like, that's unbelievable. And then, like, Piazza was around, Sheffield. There was some other baseball. Even like some basketball, some golf guys, some football guys were like, holy shit, I should have played baseball.
Seriously. This is another level. What was your reaction, AJ, when you saw it? Because we talked about it for so long, and I felt like people tried to bring the price down publicly, or at least some did. And then it kept rising, and then it was 500 to 600 million. And then still, nobody put a 7 realistically of the people that we followed in front of anything. And I get it, deferrals. But still, no one said, hey, this could be $700 million with deferrals.
Two things, okay? First of all, when 700 came out, like 700, you're like, wait a second, that's over 10 years? Because remember, we were talking like 10 years, 500. But for 10 years, 700, everyone, I mean, that's like, whoa. You look at your phone and you go, wait, let me reread that. Am I not seeing that correctly? Because you're like, okay, and then defer, whatever. I don't care about the deferrals. I mean, listen, Bobby Bonilla's, the Mets are happy because they don't have to, Bobby Bonilla is not the story for the next 50 years like Shohei is. And then second of all, the only thing I'm disappointed about is the way it was announced. Like, I feel like Shohei could have at least been like, all right, guys, put a video out there being like a Dodger hat. Here we go, LA. Let's go, LA, right? Instead, he just kind of mildly put a Dodgers symbol on his Instagram and everybody freaked out. But, like, I thought there could have been so many cool ways he could have announced this that he picked the Dodgers, even though it's not official yet and the Dodgers haven't announced it. I get it. But there just seems like there's so many cooler ways he could have announced this himself.
And he did say sorry. He said, sorry it took so long for me to make my decision. I wanted him to say ... but I actually knew all along, as long as the Dodgers gave me the money, this was the spot. It was hard for me, and I know we talked about this a lot, Kratz, but it was hard for me as I kind of let it digest over the 48 hours after it broke to imagine what it would have looked like elsewhere. And I know we'll get into the Toronto side, so I'll leave that for a moment. On the LA side, clearly he's into the West Coast. He's lived out there. Seems like he likes it. He's going to get the money. And number one thing is, my light was falling on me. Number one thing is he wants to win.
He proved it. You got more hits than Shohei's gotten in the last few days.
Hey, he wants to win, though. So what is, if you're evaluating and you've got everything else you want, right? Just look at wins and losses now. Where do you go if you want to guarantee that you at least get into the dance? Where's the spot that you go?
Atlanta or LA. And then everybody, I mean, it's for who's set for the next 4 years, 5 years? Atlanta, LA, Philly. I think, the Rangers would be a distant. I know I'm forgetting somebody, but those two teams, Atlanta and LA, have proven that they're going to continue to be really good. And everyone's going to say, oh, out in the playoffs, all this stuff, whatever. He wants to win. He went there, and he also got the money too. I asked that to Ken. He got both. Did he really want to win, or did he really want the money? Oh, neat story. He got both.
Why though did he apologize? Explain to me why. Because he took too long? Dude, we're not even into Christmas yet. It's not like he drugged this thing out to like spring training was about to start and then pick. I mean, I feel weird that he had to apologize for taking this long. This wasn't that long.
It's just him.
I know, but it's like, gosh, I'd be like, sorry, not sorry, motherfucker. $700 million. I'll take as long as I want, bitches.
That is the difference. This is why I don't think anybody on the planet could handle $700 million. Like, there's been two. What did Messi get it over 4 years? $674 million, something like that, something crazy. Like, you can't. There's not even even you, AJ. You made 10x, 12x as much as I made in my career, and he's making 10x, 12x of what you made in your career. Like, people don't even understand. Like, for him to say, I'm sorry, like, hey, you know what? Good for him. He's apologetic in his. I just hope he's happy. I hope he has people in his life and stuff, because now, like, he's never. I mean, I don't think he's ever going to sign another contract, but like, he's never. This has been built up for all this time, and at the end he goes, sorry that I didn't get this done sooner. Sorry that I just made way more millions of dollars than the Arizona Coyotes are even worth.
But don't you think that's part of his character and even culture to an extent, right? It's like trying to show respect. And also for him, I do think some players in his position, or people in his position, with all the leverage and all the money coming and teams bowing down to your every request, would thrive. I feel like for him, it was like a little bit uncomfortable. Just wants to go to the ballpark. This is not a guy who flaunts his personality. This is not a guy who wants to really do anything besides be the best player on the planet. And yeah, have some winning involved with it now too. You know what I'm saying? It's not his style. I feel like he probably finally did this, pressed post, or someone else did for him, right? Took a deep breath and said, literally all I have to do now is show up to a ballpark and play the best baseball I can. Nothing else is kind of up for grabs anymore, right? I don't have to be a part of a decision. I don't really have to answer questions about that much anymore. I can just go play ball with a team that has other superstars, that's been to the playoffs year after year, and I can try and shine on the largest stage and be like a little kid out there on the field playing with the best people on the planet. Doesn't that go into his brain a little bit?
Yeah. And, there's probably some relief too. He doesn't have to pitch this year. From the people that I talk to, he likes hitting more than pitching. He likes being really good, clearly, but he likes hitting more than pitching. And so this year he just has to, although I guess rehab would kind of be a pain in the butt, but he's focused on one thing this year, and he might hit 55 dingers.
Yeah, and that's a good call. I mean, you get to kind of ease into the new ball club. And I know you're still in the same.
What if he doesn't pitch, though? What if he just like, fuck
Ever?
this, I ain't never pitching again? Is it still worth it? Is it still worth it? We had this conversation. Is it still worth it if he never pitches again?
It's so hypothetical. He is going to pitch again.
Okay, let's say he pitches 1 year and he's like, screw it, I'm done. So 2 years into this 10 years, you got whatever's left.
I don't see it. I don't see that.
I'm just saying.
I understand. What if he doesn't want to hit again?
He just crushes. Everyone knows he can hit. He wants to hit.
I'm just saying.
Pitching is where he gets hurt. Pitching is where he's getting hurt.
Yeah.
It's not hitting. Pitching is where he keeps getting hurt. So if you lose the pitching side of it, is he still worth the $700 million?
Yes, and I'll tell you
Okay.
why. So, and not to get too deep into math, $35 million just for his bat and his on-field production based on what other players have gotten. I think that's fair. $35 million a year for what he brings to your team in direct short-term marketing, distribution dollars, etc., right? Which we've talked about plenty of times. NHK having your games on. The marketing money that the Angels made off of him sounded large, right? Tens of millions, maybe say $25 million just on that alone. LA will probably make more. Also, much better run operation there in Hollywood. And there's no doubt in my mind that they basically see that return on him from a business component, right? Merch sales, tickets, the whole deal, everything. I think he is worth that on the business side, $35 million, and then 35 as a player. That is not factoring in how much the value of the franchise has immediately increased and will continue to increase year after year as long as he is part of the mix here. I mean, many people now are using the example of how big he is in Japan and just globally in general and making like Taylor Swift comparisons, not even comparing him to other players. No?
He's
in Japan? You don't think he's that big of a deal?
He's not as big as Taylor Swift is.
In Japan?
In Japan and anywhere. You're talking worldwide, he's not as big as Taylor Swift.
I think people will just...
He's not walking down the streets of Argentina and people are dropping
Japan
to their knees. Okay, I know, but Japan is one country. Taylor Swift is the world.
I understand, but I think that the money that he is bringing from fans in Japan coming to the States to watch games, ordering merch online, airing the games, etc., I think he brings insane money and value to this team.
Okay, so why did the Angels not know his value? They know the value to the Angels franchise. Why did the Angels not say, man, we need to keep this guy at all costs? Why did they?
They did. They never traded him.
Well, what I'm saying is, why didn't they? Maybe Shohei's group didn't go to him, but why did the Angels not blow the Dodgers out of the water?
Because they suck, and their owner is controlling their whole team. I mean, it's time to call a spade a spade. He never made the playoffs with them. To me, that's a hang up. Done. Not picking up the phone for whatever you're throwing at me. We just did this dance for a long time. Definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again.
What about this? What if the Angels don't think he's a winner and they didn't want him back because he's never won and they had to? Hey, I mean, we're talking what ifs and buts and put one in your other hand and whatever AJ always says. Like, what if? What if they saw something that they didn't like and that's why they don't make an offer?
Hard to believe. I think they wanted him back. And I think they knew how much money he brought to the organization and they weren't winning and he didn't want to go there. It didn't sound like he wanted to go to either of the New York teams as well, right? You saw reports and Steve Cohen, and it didn't sound like there were many conversations, many kind of reach outs on either side, right? Didn't want to, for a variety of reasons, maybe go entertain offers or conversations with the Mets and the Yankees. And that's fine.
That's fine. He had his choice. He was a free agent. He can go wherever he wants.
Yeah. And in my mind, how much, because we're going to talk about this more coming up, before we get to Mike Wilner on the Blue Jays perspective, how serious do you think he considered Toronto? Or
he
was
considered
that
it
also
serious enough he jumped on a plane and went there? Oh, wait, no, that wasn't Trey.
Exactly. He jumped on a plane and went to Dunedin, though, AJ. And my thing is, it's hard to decipher how serious it is because you do need two teams to dance. That helps. I know that helps.
But also, here's the thing. He didn't go, that we know of, he didn't go to Toronto. He's going to be spending most of his time in Toronto. In Dunedin, you're there for 6 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
8 weeks a year. He didn't go to Toronto. He didn't go. I mean, I know he's played there. I know that he's been there. But he didn't actually go to Toronto where they could say, hey, remember when we talked to Mike, I think it was last time, how much they're redoing all of the Rogers Center? They're like ripping it up and they put a new family area in and they're doing all these new things to make it up to kind of code of MLB now. But he never actually went to Toronto. He only went to the spring training. So yeah, there was interest there. But to me, you have to actually show up in Toronto if you're this level of a free agent.
Do we know for a fact that he didn't go?
No, that's what I'm saying. But no one has reported it yet. But you would think somebody would have seen him if he was there. Somebody would have found out. But why? Why would Ross Atkins and why would the Blue Jays not have him in Toronto? Why do they go to Dunedin? That doesn't make sense to me. I always wondered, man, why would we not go? Let's go to Toronto. This is where he's going to spend most of his time. 6 months in a row, you're in Toronto. Hopefully 7 if you count October. But why would they go to Dunedin? Why not just go to Toronto? Why? Because more people would have known, because you got to clear customs. You got to do all these things that are a little different than if he just flies into a private airport in Dunedin, goes to the spring training complex, flies out, right? Was he using Toronto? I mean, it's a great way to do it because a lot of people, used to be, people that were on top of it reported that he was going to Toronto, and it wasn't true.
It was not true at all. And then Kratz, we're going off that Sportsnet report. What was it? 12 years, 580. And I don't care about the years. I care about the final number. That's not even close to 700.
It's not. But also, what's the state tax
In California?
And if he lives in, I guess he'd be in Toronto. Toronto rips you too. So
Yeah.
there's not much tax deferral there. I don't know. It's all speculation. What we do know is the Dodgers now have 3 guys in their lineup, the top 3 in their lineup that finished 1, 2, and 3 in their respective MVP voting. Obviously, Shohei was in the American League, but Mookie and Freddie finished 2, 3 in their lineup.
Their lineup's pretty sick.
Is it Betts, Freeman, Ohtani, 1, 2, 3? And also keep in mind, last year their lineup was sick, and it didn't show up in that series against Arizona. But
their lineup wasn't as good as it is right now. If we bring Lux back, you throw Ohtani in the middle. No offense to JD Martinez. No offense to Miguel Rojas, right? But their lineup, if you go Betts, Freeman, Will Smith, Ohtani, Muncy, Lux, Outman, Jason Hayward, that's pretty solid damn lineup right there.
Last year they scored more runs, according to Ken, than they ever scored in LA Dodgers history. I think they
got bounced in the first round.
Yeah. So we'll get into more of the Toronto side first. So poll question is up for you right now. Who's the next team to make a major move? Dodgers again, Blue Jays, Atlanta, Yankees, Mets. WatchStadium.com/foul territory. Talk to Mike Wilner about some Blue Jays therapy aftermath. Can they get Soto? Oh, wait.
I want to go back to the regular Reds, and I want to talk about Elly De La Cruz, because Scott and I really like him, and I want to see a great year out of him next year. Do you think, I'm not going to call it a bounce back year, but do you think he can step up and, keep going and have that year that everybody's been hoping for? I know it was just a sample size, but you think he can average his stuff out and get back to where he needs to be, knowing that he's going to be the shortstop of the future, it seems like?
Here's the thing with Elly De La Cruz. Here's the floor we're talking about. We're talking about a guy, even if he does not get on base at a league average, say 320 is league average, if he gets on base at 300%, at a 300 clip, he's going to still steal 50 bases. At Great American Ballpark, he's going to run into 25 to 30 homers, and that's if he's not hitting well. And he's got real potential at shortstop. So if he's an above-average shortstop, there's like a 300 on base, 50 steals, 25 to 30 homers. To me, that's almost the floor. I know that sounds crazy because those are crazy stats, but if he can do that, you're talking an all-star, right? Like, if you play above average defense at short, steal 50 bags and hit 25 to 30. And I think that's where they feel his floor is. That's why there's no talk of moving him to center field. Heck, center field can be so much more taxing on a body than even shortstop. Center field is one of those tough positions where you're throwing your body all around, and it's unforgiving position. So I don't know. I think I just don't doubt Elly De La Cruz.
And now back to foul territory.
Hey, we welcome back a guest from recent past, Mike Wilner, with you, and we'll plug the pod coming up in just a sec too in the articles. But right off the jump here, I just want to get the feeling, the sense of the fans in Toronto right now. And Mike, we appreciate the time to bring you back on here, but what's going on out there in Toronto right now? Not just for losing out on a player, but for many fans thinking they actually won the player.
Yeah, it was a great 2 hours when we had him there. It was Shohei Ohtani was a Blue Jay for as long as Arson Judge was the San Francisco Giant, and it was a good time. You know what? Right now, the feeling is disappointment. The feeling is hurt. The feeling is the Jays got played and used, and there's some anger too because there have been at least a couple of major national writers who have written columns about how Shohei Ohtani signing with the Dodgers is good for baseball and saying outright, not just hinting, but saying outright that Shohei Ohtani signing with the Blue Jays would have been bad for baseball, which is, to me, a ludicrous position to take. And there's been a lot of seemingly American ignorance about what goes on up here and what kind of place this is. And I think that's got people more upset than any of the other stuff.
Why would it have been bad? You're up there all the time. Why do you think that's the perception? Somebody that played there, somebody that was drafted by the Blue Jays, I see it different, but why do you, as a Canadian, as a Toronto native, why do you see it? Why do you think people see it as a negative?
I think a lot of Americans honestly just see Canada as that tiny little strip on the top of the weather map where it's cold and it snows all the time. I've never been asked that typical question of do you guys have electricity up there, or does everyone have an igloo in their backyard and stuff like that. But there were points being made by people who were saying Shohei Ohtani is not going to like the weather in Toronto when it's 90 degrees here in June and July and August. We don't get snow in the summer. There's no snow on the ground right now, and it's the middle of December. I think there's a lot of that. There's a lot of people who don't understand just how big a city Toronto is. We are the fourth largest city in North America. And there are people who don't understand how cosmopolitan a city it is, all the things to do here. I think the perception from most Americans is that Canada is just some other place way up there where it's really cold all the time and it's clean and the people are nice. And there's a lot more to it than that.
Hey, Mike, part of the hurt is the reporting here. You're at the Toronto Star. Are there rules for what you can and can't put out there based on gathering information? Are there rules? I mean, I know there's not obviously rules within all writers everywhere, and the lines are starting to get blurred and people just throw stuff out there. And I truly felt also like on Friday, the sourcing was even getting pretty weak, where it was just I'm seeing other fake reports and I want to be first. And I feel like I have a 50-50 chance. So I might as well just say the decision has been made already. So I'm wondering, do you get any guidelines at the Toronto Star in terms of how you should conduct any business from sources?
I mean, you want to be right, right? This is the thing. I'm new to the world of sports writing. I've only been with the Star for 3 years, and for the 25 years before that, I was in broadcasting. But I was, and I'm not a guy who breaks a ton of stories. I think the last story that I broke was when Pat Henkin retired, and that was in 2002 or 3 or 4. But everybody wants to be first, and it seems like fewer and fewer people are as concerned with whether or not they're right. But I that might be a bit of an overstatement. I think that there's a rush, and there can be a frenzy, and judgment can get lost. But as far as guidelines are concerned, I think be right is the first one. And obviously the most important one. And I know that there are, like you said, there are people who say, well, I got a 50-50 chance at this, right? I remember the guy who broke the story of the strike being over in 95. No, I think it was a later one. No, I guess that was the last big one. The strike being over in 95. I have my dates wrong. But anyway, somebody who broke a huge labor-related baseball story up here in Toronto was the first one with the information, was also somebody who spent a whole lot of his career just throwing crap at the wall and hoping that it would be right. And that one was right. And it's incredibly hard for me to believe that that came from actual knowledge and good sourcing and wasn't just, hey, it feels like this thing's about to happen, so I'm going to go be the first one out there. And it's too bad that can happen. I know John Morosi. I don't know JP Hornstra. It feels like at least Morosi got used, and it's unfortunate. But I think that it was easier to tell on Friday who was really diligent about what they were doing and concerned about being right than who was just trying to be first. And, I was, I got a phone call on Friday afternoon from someone who I hadn't heard from in years who said, hey, my buddy's in catering. Yusei Kikuchi just made a reservation for 50 at a high-end Japanese restaurant in Toronto. But I'm not going to put that out there unless I can find somebody else who can tell me the same thing, who's a little closer than, hey, I have a friend who does this. I'm sure the person who called me absolutely believed that it was true. But, I mean, you got to, before we're going to put it out there, you got to get a little more meat than that.
For that time span, however long it was, 2 hours, 1 day, that Shohei Ohtani was going to be a Blue Jay, did Blue Jay fans think it was World Series time? Like this was going to be 92, 93 all over again? And if it was, the team is essentially the same minus their DH. So can they go out and fill that role?
I think people thought this is exactly what the Blue Jays needed to have happen after what was an extraordinarily disappointing 2023 season and, a 27-hour playoff run that ended with an embarrassing binder and khaki related pitching move in the fourth inning of the last game of game 2 of their playoff series, in which they scored 1 run in an entire series. I don't know if people were thinking World Series, but I think they thought it was a lot more of a possibility than it had been before. And it was really exciting to think that an easy argument to make that he's the greatest player in the history of this game was going to come to Toronto and going to suit up with the Blue Jays and be here for a decade plus. I think when people found out about $700 million, a lot of them stopped in their tracks a little bit and said, whoa, I'm glad they didn't do that. But at the same time, they would have been thrilled had it happened anyway. But, they got a little bit more work to do than just the DH, right? They lost their third baseman. They lost their center fielder. Whit Merrifield's gone too, and he was a second baseman and platoon left fielder for a lot of the season. So I think right now the sense is the Jays are in a lot of trouble, because Juan Soto's off the board. Jamer Candelario even is off the board. There's no big splash left on the free agent market as far as an offensive player is concerned. So I think people are concerned that they're gonna have a hard time even getting back to the 89 win team that made the playoffs by 1 game that they were last year.
And I mean, AJ, good thing they're in a pretty crappy division, right? They're in the AL Central, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, they're in the AL East, where it's a little bit tougher. And you see what the Yankees went and got Soto. They're allegedly the favorites for Yamamoto. You said there's no one out there. Cody Bellinger would be a nice fit if plays center field out there. He's left-handed. He'd fit nicely, I feel like, in Toronto. There's other moves they can make. What is the move though? I know you've mentioned like the Soto. It would have been nice to see Juan Soto as a Blue Jay, but then they would have had to pay him. right? Because they would have had to mortgage their future in order to get him. The Yankees scooped him up. The Jays now are kind of like, what do we do? Because now does this free up money to sign Bichette and Vlad? Do they go get Bellinger? Do they go get Stroman? Bring reunion with Stroman? I don't know. There's some names out there that are Montgomery, things like that. What is it? Can it be just because they didn't get Ohtani? Can they go get 4 or 5 guys and try to make up for something? I don't know. It's just such an odd situation for a team like the Blue Jays who have money and players. Once they actually get there, a lot of them love playing there. So what's the next move for the Blue Jays?
Yeah, there's only been 1 or 2 people in the 35 years that I've been covering the team who really hasn't liked being here. It's true. I think that Bellinger, the 2023 Cody Bellinger, the 2019-18 Cody Bellinger is absolutely a perfect fit for the Blue Jays. The 2021 and 2022 Cody Bellinger certainly is not. And as great a year as he had last year, I don't know which Cody Bellinger you're getting. Like, is he fixed? Is this him now? I've heard talk about the swing change, but does that hold? Do pitchers adjust back and he winds up being all but unplayable again? Like, he's looking for a major commitment over a very long term, and I don't know how comfortable I am that he's going to be the guy he was last year and not the guy he was the year before. So I don't know what the Blue Jays think about that. But they certainly can afford to bring him in. I don't think that they've got the $65 million or whatever it was that they were willing to pay Ohtani to spread around. I think when I was on with you guys last week, I said they had like a unicorn budget for Ohtani, and that goes away if he's not there. I mean, they're still going to pay, but not to that extent. I don't know how much they're going to go swimming in the starting pitching market, because they had 4 guys make 30 starts last year, all of whom are coming back, plus Alek Manoah, who they hope for a bounce back from. And do you sell a starting pitcher on, hey, come and be our 5th starter? And Alek Manoah is going to challenge you for a job, and the guy finished 3rd in Cy Young voting 2 years ago, so he might be able to beat you out. I don't know if that's so attractive. But then if you sign a starter, a good one, maybe that frees up a Bassett or a Kikuchi for trade to bring you in a bat or 2 that you need. I really do think that the Blue Jays' best option is to go out looking on the trade market, to go talk to all the teams who've lost out on their TV money, whose regional sports networks have failed, and who are kind of in limbo as to how much they're going to have next year and how much they're not going to have, and offer to take some contracts off their hands, and let's go shopping there. Call the Padres about Bogarts and Machado. Call Cleveland about Jose Ramirez. I know he's got a no trade, but lots of guys who have no trades have been traded before. See what you can do. Flex those financial muscles, take some money off of people's hands, and get some bats.
So are you going to be disappointed as a Canadian, as a Blue Jay fan, if Rogers, the monopolistic communication company that is in Canada, doesn't fork out some serious cash since they had their opportunity here? Everybody was in on it. Everybody has an opportunity to go over what the Dodgers were going to pay. But now you have extra motivation to sign your Bows, your Vladdies. You have extra motivation and you have the extra cash. Are Blue Jay fans calling for that? Are they calling for Rogers, who, if you want to talk to anybody or have any cable or have any communication in Canada, Rogers is getting some of your cash?
Yeah, almost. Rogers or Bell is getting your cash if you want cable or internet or anything in Canada. It's true. I think Blue Jays fans as a group are sort of down on Vladdy right now. I don't think a huge long-term commitment to Vlad at big money would be something that people would be all that excited about coming off the year he had last year. He's 2021 was the high water mark, but he was only 21 years old or 22, and he's gotten worse each year since. Bo Bichette's gotten better each year. And I think he's sort of the darling of Blue Jays fans right now over Vladdy, though love what the possibilities of Vladimir Guerrero are and what he has accomplished and I think will accomplish. And they're both still just babies. But I think it's been in the planning for a long time to try to lock them both up. I don't think Vlad would sign a long-term deal right now, coming off the year he did, if that was used against him in the overall dough. And I think Bichette would, but I think improvements are needed. And I think you got to get that done first, whether it's bringing Matt Chapman back or making a trade for a Jose Ramirez, going out and getting a big slugging left fielder with Dalton Varsho moving to center, getting a DH. Joey Votto would be the fun move. But I don't know how much you can count on Joey Votto. I think that if he comes here and manages to stay healthy, he could have one big send-off season, and it would be a lot of fun because he grew up with 20 minutes from the Dome. But I think they have to get those things done first before they look at tying up a lot of money in Bo and Vlad, because there's still a possibility that, if 2024 doesn't go well, then you blow this whole thing up and start again, or the front office loses their jobs and somebody new comes in and either blows this whole thing up and starts again, or figures out another way to do it. I think Bo and Vlad's future in Toronto is highly contingent on how well the Blue Jays play this season.
All right, here's a lineup of 3 guys that are all going to be coming out at the same time. Who gets a louder boo? Shohei on his first day back, Rougned Odor, or Ross Atkins?
I don't. First of all, I don't know if Shohei is going to be back in the lineup yet in April, so he might not be here when the Dodgers come to Toronto. But I would boo his agent more than I would boo him. I think that, the Jays got used as leverage, which is astounding to me, because I said last week, what's the difference between $580 million and $615 million? But I mean, obviously, the difference between 620 and 700 is incredible, and I have a feeling that no matter what the Jays offered, the Dodgers would have beaten it. If the Jays had gone to 700, the Dodgers would have gone to 750. And if the Jays had gone to 750, the Dodgers would have gone to 800. And it wouldn't have mattered because Ohtani wanted to be there anyway. And his agent was trying to get him the most money he possibly could, and he did. So I would boo the agent. I think at this point in Toronto, Ross Atkins gets bigger boos than Rougned Odor. And because I think that the opportunity for a big off-season splash is gone, I think no matter what happens, Ross Atkins gets booed on opening day if he's out there, which he won't be, and he won't be introduced. But winning cures everything, but just making the playoffs does not cure everything, because people are left with still a really, really bad taste in their mouths over last year.
Well, they're on the clock right now. The free agent frenzy is going to begin here soon. So, Mike, we appreciate you jumping back on soon after joining us the first time around after all of this. And you can follow Mike at Wilnerness, also his articles in the Toronto Star, and check out his podcast at Deep LF Podcast at Deep Left Field. There it is, nice and pretty. Mike, we appreciate the time, man. Thanks so much for joining us again, and hopefully better times for Jays fans soon.
Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be interesting and it's going to be fun, but always happy to be with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Mike. We'll be right back on FTLIVE. Back on FT Live on Stadium, Braun, Pierzynski, Kratz, and we're going to sizzle a little bit, hot corner. And also, how does what happened this weekend affect the rest of the market in two ways? One, can we get some more signings? Can we get like maybe
No.
two big ones in one day?
No.
Within a few hours? No, we can't have nice things. Okay.
No, everybody wants theirs. Everybody wants theirs, and they're going to take their time. And I'm not going to be pushed by Shohei. And you know what? It's kind of like opening all your presents at once. You don't want to open all your presents at once. You want to take your time. Open one, look at it. We're looking at our Shohei present right now. And then we're going to take a little bit more time, and we're going to look at our Yamamoto present. And then after that, we're going to look at our Blake Snell present. Just have some patience. This is a time of waiting.
Okay, fine. But we at least have some news around Yamamoto, who met with the New York Mets in Japan. They flew out to him with Steve Cohen and David Stearns. Now, let's show you Andy Martino or John Heyman. Which one? Claude, I hear you. Which one we got here? Let's start with Andy. There are rumors or reports, or I don't know what anymore, that Matsui and Tanaka will attend the Yankees meeting with Yamamoto in LA tomorrow. That is not accurate. They won't be there. But Hal Steinbrenner and co. are in solid position in this sweepstakes. Wait, AJ, there's fake news bullshit reporting again? I'm shocked.
No way. Everyone just I think it's what Mike just said. Everyone's in such a hurry to be first and not right. And sometimes you just got to sit on some stuff and find out for sure. You got to get more than one person, because I know, and I think Kratz will back this, there were times where players would tell guys something just to see if it would get out, even though they knew it wasn't true. And I think sometimes people are in such a rush to be first. Like, just be right. Like, know something, know what you're saying is true, what you're putting out there is true. And yeah, I mean, listen, the Yankees, we said it last week before they got Soto that they had to be the ones to get him. I feel like there's other teams that need Yamamoto more than the Yankees do at this point. But, man, the Yankees are going all in. And listen, Yankees-Dodgers World Series, I work for Fox. Fox would not hate that at all.
Some fans, the small market team fans, would be like, this is what everyone wants. It's rigged. They want this every year. Well, yeah, I mean, from a business component, Fox is into it. MLB, actually, I think, tries to bring the top teams down as best as possible all the time. They are essentially creating a soft salary cap. They punish people or teams with draft picks as well. But anyway, on Yamamoto's money, let's show John Heyman's tweet as well, because you got the Yankees contingent flying tomorrow to LA, which is now today, to meet with Yamamoto, who's 25 years old. And Heyman said every big market team is interested. Cost could hit $300 million. It's a long list, but the Mets and Dodgers are also seen as big players here. So what do we think? I mean, do you agree, Kratz, that there are other teams that need Yamamoto more? And more importantly, are there other teams that are going to pay more? I think out of the big market teams, the most pissed off fan base right now is San Francisco. And I'll include Toronto as a big market team, but I think San Francisco Giants fans are like, yo, we're rich. Can we get a superstar free agent one time?
That's where, to me, that's where the money is going to go through. If it's going to go through the roof, I still don't see Yamamoto getting more than 40 million a year. So I'm sticking in my max 280, 265 to 280. I get it. He could start getting upwards, but then you're getting more than Scherzer, Verlander, DeGrom, Cole, those kind of guys. So I still see him in that realm, but the wild card is the Giants. The Giants clearly lost out or didn't try for Shohei, whichever it is. Now he's playing against them. So whatever their effort was, it wasn't enough. And now you have to face them. How do you combat that? How do you combat that with fans? I don't think they need to just get Yamamoto. They should be looking to spend their $500 million on 2 to 3 players that will help this team. And I don't know that they value starting pitching enough to say over $300 million for Yamamoto. And he's not necessarily a star just because you pay him $300 million. He's just a really good pitcher. But are you building your franchise around a guy who plays 32? Well, Japanese pitchers come over here and they'll first year make 29 starts because they'll, slowly transition in. But are you built? Is that your superstar because he's the next best available and you paid him a lot of money, to me, that's not necessarily a superstar.
Yeah, they spread the money around last year and didn't really work out, right? And Mike said in the chat, he goes, Giants fans can chill. They got 3 World Series rings in a decade. Yeah, they had a dynasty going, the every other year thing, but it's been a minute. And
it's been 10 years now since they've done that.
Yeah. Also, I mean, there's a difference. Like, you're not expecting necessarily for them to win a World Series. Giants fans want to see them push chips in. They want to see them land superstars. They want to have a name on the back of a jersey that they can keep for a while and feel like they can brag about it, right? To their friends. Like, yo, I got Posey on my back. Posey's gone. So something to keep in mind there. For Yamamoto, our boy Todd Father said, if the Yanks really want him, they should not let him leave the room without a deal done. Does that happen? Is that possible? In my mind, I'm sure there's some number, especially if he's interested in, let's say in his head, this is the team he wants to go to, where they say, listen, dude, we want to get this done right now. We don't even want to let you go home. We love you that much. But I think when that happens, you have to throw a, not preposterous number, but a pretty crazy number at someone for them to have to say, you know what, I'll forego going home, making a decision, and then calling you back. But there is a line. Everyone has a number, right?
Of course. When the Yankees want them that bad, they'll do that. I don't think they'll do that, though, because the Yankees aren't in the business of doing that anymore. They're not in the business of just blowing guys out of the water and outbidding everybody. They're the analytic Yankees now, Hal Steinbrenner, not George Steinbrenner. So I don't know that that'll happen, but if I'm the Yankees, I feel a lot better about it if I at least get a handshake deal and say, hey, we're in the ballpark and we got a chance here and we're ahead of the game. Because it's kind of like anything. If you let them walk out that door, anything can happen. And the Giants could come on top. I mean, the Mets, the Giants, the Dodgers. I mean, can you imagine if the Dodgers get him too? Oh my gosh. Wow. I mean, I don't know what their payroll is going to be. I don't know what their payroll limits are. But I mean, I don't know how much you can defer. I don't know. They're gonna at some point. Major League Baseball's just be like, God, I can't do any more deferred money. But I mean, it's the Dodgers' money, and however they want to spend it, they're going to spend it. But wow, I mean, if they get him too, it's. But I think the team to watch out for. Yes, I know we're talking Giants, the Mets, though. I think the Mets are gonna. They haven't done anything this offseason yet, so I feel like the Mets are in line to do something big. Because Stevie Cohen, he just can't sit there. He can't watch the Yankees go get Soto and now the Dodgers get Shohei and him just sit back and go, oh, it's fine. We're not going to do anything. I just don't. He's not that type of owner.
They already showed their cards. They flew out there. So they're going to do everything they can on that front. And they flew out there.
I mean, Steve Cohen's not flying to Japan to lose, I don't think. I feel like he's not.
No, and if he wants to win every time, he can win. Right?
Well, you can't just because you spend more, you don't always win.
Right. True. He can just say, Yamamoto, you know what? I want to be a Yankee instead of a Met, but they certainly can throw the most money out there. By the way, a quick side note, because they did make a trade the other day. Wonder where the Red Sox are in the pitching frenzy and what they'll end up doing, because there are high expectations there from their fan base. They did make, in my mind, a nice little acquisition. Tyler O'Neill gave out 2 pitchers that aren't super high upside pitchers. It actually wasn't as much of a return as I thought it would be. I guess his stock has fallen quite a bit, and I think it's only 1 season of Tyler O'Neill. But, man, dude had some moments. Good fielder, great athlete. He's had inconsistency at the plate, but we've seen him at his best, and he's obviously still in tip-top shape, and I don't think he's past the aging curve yet that you wouldn't expect him to bounce back. And in my mind, I really liked this move, AJ, because this is a guy who still has high upside. The Red Sox have had a lot of mediocrity. So if you're going to make some moves and take some risks for your lineup, this is the kind of move that I would be looking at. So I didn't expect them to be the one to land him, but I like.
He's right-handed too. They're left-handed.
Yes.
They're lefty heavy in the Red Sox lineup. So they're right-handed. The one thing that for the Cardinal side of it, though, like Ollie Marmol and Tyler O'Neill just didn't get along for some reason. I mean, it was a constant for over a year now. They've been just butting heads, running balls out, or whatever it is. He didn't seem like he fit with the Cardinals. So this is a good move for the Red Sox if he stays healthy. That's been also a problem for Tyler O'Neill. Let's not forget, he didn't stay healthy a lot. But when he does, he's won a Gold Glove. He'll hit you 30 homers, especially in a place like Boston where you can just hit little pop fly balls to the left and they'll go over the monster. So I like this move for the Red Sox, and I actually like this move for the Cardinals because this is a guy they had to move. They had so many outfielders, Carlson and Jordan Walker and just all these guys they had kind of had a logjam, so they need to figure out who they moved. And they got 2 pitching prospects, which we know the Cardinals right now are kind of valuing.
I think Tyler O'Neill's the classic case of, yes, he needs to stay healthy, but he's a guy that when he played 138 games, MVP, 8th in the MVP race, I don't think you're going to get a lot from a guy who has a career just above a career average OPS plus of I think it was 112, he's not, you need to see a level of consistency that is he going to be your superstar? Because Jarren Duran, now they have the 2 most jacked outfielders in the game. And are they both going to stay healthy? How many super jack dudes, AJ, that you played with stayed healthy for 162 games?
None that I can really think of. Dudes that were just, I mean, there was very few guys that were very, very large and very, very low. This is just how weird. But huge guys, they had a hard time, right? Like O'Neill is like a bodybuilder type with his dad, right? You just don't, it's hard because it's just such wear and tear on your body. I don't know. I mean, I hope he does. He's done it a couple times. And when he has, again, like I said, 30 homers and a gold glove. So, I mean, he can do it. It's just not consistently enough to, and again, like you said, Kratz, so I think he's a guy that is needed a change of scenery from both sides. From the Cardinal side and from the Tyler O'Neill side, it was just time to move on. Sometimes it's just time to move on, right? And this was a good trade for him.
I mean, Giancarlo Stanton's super jacked. He plays 162 a year. Sorry, too soon?
Not according to Brian Cashman, he doesn't.
One other note on O'Neill. Cyrus said that he feels like he's actually not pulling the baseball enough, was getting so obsessed with going the other way. And he's like, dude, show off that pop a little bit more. So anyway, we'll talk more about it. We got plenty of time this offseason. We'll swing right back on FT Live to put a cap on our hour on Stadium. And then a big hour 2 includes Max Muncy. Pete Alonso and the lack of communication between the Mets and his side on a potential extension. So what would you do with him right now if you were running the Mets? I voted extension. I think Pete's perfect there. Dude's been consistently bashing homers. I think he's fun. He speaks his mind. A lot of guys can't handle New York. I just think he deserves it. And it's not going to be a 10-year deal. It's going to be a 5 to 7 year deal, which I would be all over it right now. I'm trying to get that done 3 years ago. Extension is leading the pack, followed by trade, followed by nothing. So, Todd, you know him. What would you do? And also, what would you tell him? They got to reach out to him, but I imagine he wants to be there. One team for life. It seems like he loves Mets fans and communicating with them and kind of being, his quirky self.
Yeah, I think if I'm him, I'm nagging them about a contract extension. He like you said, he fits there perfect. He does a lot. He does a lot for the city. He does charitable events, raises money for a lot of unfortunate people in the city. He does everything pretty much for that team, man. He's a leader. He's a guy that you want on the team. If I'm them, hey, man, let's talk. Not today. How about tomorrow? All right, not tomorrow. Let's pick a day, to try and figure this thing out, because he's what the Mets need. And he's a 50-plus homer guy. This dude, he just crushes balls. He's an okay defender. He's getting better and better. He works hard at his craft at first base. He's a fun-loving guy. He makes mistakes just like everybody else. But if I'm him, I'm nagging Cohen. Hey, man, when can we talk? When can we talk? Let's get this thing done. And if Cohen didn't really want him, I would just be honest with him. Be truthful, because Pete can handle it. He's a big boy. But at the same time, this would be great for him to kind of breathe a little bit more, understanding that, this year, I'm a Met for life, or I'm a Met for the next 6-7 years. So I think if I'm Pete, I'm going to not. And I go back to when I played. For an example, I remember Skip Schumacher told me, hey, dude, it's your career. You make the decisions. Don't let your agent make the decisions for you. Go get after it a little bit. And, I wish I took that to heart, because I would have, hopefully some things would have played out a little better. But I think Pete needs to start nagging a little more.
And now, back to foul territory.
What's up? Back on FT Live. We have Max Muncy and Dan O'Dowd in hour number 2 on the FT YouTube channel. Poll results on who is going to make the next big move. Winner, by far, New York Mets, which in my mind means most people think that the Mets are going to get Yamamoto. I think that's what is out there right now, or at least the thought process based on how they operate. So that makes sense to me.
Think about that. If they get him, though, think about the NL East again. You know, the Marlins have made the playoffs. The Braves made the playoffs. The Phillies. The Mets had Scherzer, Verlander. They got rid of them. They bring in Yamamoto. You pair him with Senga. You get Diaz back. I mean, the Mets aren't rebuilding like they told, Scherzer and Verlander. They're in the heart of it again.
Not to be like told you so, but kind of told you so if they end up with him. Come on, I've been all over that for a long time. I was like, the Mets are going to win more games. If they get Yamamoto and he's good, he's a 1, they're going to be better next year. So that's it for us on Stadium. We're back on FT YouTube in a moment with Max Muncy of the Dodgers.
Gotta let go so I can be free. I take the weight on my shoulders. I feel the sky come down on me, and I can't hold it much longer. Gotta let go so I can be free. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
What's up? Hour 2, FT Live. It's going to be a good one. Been very anxious to talk to a Dodger player, and one that obviously is a friend of the show who will tell it like it is. So Max Muncy is going to join us soon on his brand new teammate, Shohei Ohtani. And in the meantime, you want to look at the updated odds of who is going to win the National League? Because if you thought that Shohei Ohtani was going to the Dodgers and you thought that was going to significantly increase the chances of the Dodgers winning the pennant, you should have already done that. Because now they're at plus 275. Our Bet MGM odds look right here at the NL favorites. They've topped the Braves now. It's LA plus 275, Atlanta plus 325. Then you have a pretty big drop off to Philly at plus 550. Then you get to the Mets at plus 1100, Diamondbacks plus 1400, Cubs at plus 1600. That's your top 6 on the NL side. AJ, thoughts? Do you think the Dodgers should be the favorites over the Braves now?
I think they need some pitching. I think, what's Kershaw going to do? What kind of shape is Bueller in? Arias obviously isn't back. I know Bobby Miller and Pepio and some of the Grove and some of these young kids are counting on, but I need to see some more pitching from somewhere in the Dodgers organization, because you can't rely on the young kids. You saw what happened to them last year. They ran out of pitching against Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks waffled them pretty good. So I don't know. I think that their lineup on paper is sick, but I mean, listen, you can throw the Braves lineup up there and it's pretty damn good too. I mean, they got a couple, they got MVP. They got the guy who led the league in homers and RBIs last year. They got, pretty good catcher, pretty good second baseman, pretty good outfielders. So listen, Phillies ain't bad either. So I need to see some pitching moves, but this is a rush to judgment because the Dodgers signed Ohtani. I think the Mets seem a little bit high until they do something. Diamondbacks are a little bit high. Everyone's going off their World Series. But, yeah, I mean, you can make a case for the Dodgers, Braves, Phillies for me for being the favorites.
You have to keep in mind that they project forward. So they are assuming that the Dodgers are going to patch up their rotation, which I would say is a safe assumption. Kratz, you think they're just going to sit around now in the offseason? Sure, they might not sign Yamamoto or Jordan Montgomery or Blake Snell, right? The top 3 maybe starters available, but they might sign 3 other starters that you feel pretty good about to insert into the rotation. Maybe 2 Hey, right now, and I listen to Fair Territory, and we'll get into that a little bit later on with Ken Rosenthal this morning. And he said the name that he's kind of hearing that's linked there is Tyler Glasnow. Tyler Glasnow addition to the Dodgers, and then maybe like a Seth Lugo signing. You start to feel a lot better about the Dodgers rotation entering the season, at least. No?
Sure. But to me, I'd take this money. If I'm getting Braves, we're talking about the money that's out there. If I'm getting Braves at better odds than the Dodgers, I'm taking that money because the Braves have the things that the Dodgers are supposed to be doing. And I don't know. I don't know that the Dodgers rotation right now, or even hypothetical, let's say you put Glasnow in there, you have a hypothetical Walker Buehler. Is he going to come back and throw 180 innings? Glasnow is not going to give you 200 innings. But you have Morton, Strider, Max Fried, plus their lineups match up pretty well against each other. Like, to me, I still say odds-wise, the Braves have the team right now. They may not make as many moves, but I think the Dodgers have a team that could be built.
Yeah, of course. And we're going to get into it in just a sec with Max Muncy. Let's throw out that first bet offer for you. When you use the bonus code FOUL, download the Bet MGM Sportsbook app, sign up and deposit at least $10 into your new account, place your first wager, receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. And if that happens, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So before we get to Max, I do want to just emphasize that we talked about this for a long time, right? We talked about this the entire year of Foul Territory's first year of existence. And it did actually happen. There were a ton of nervous fans. There were a ton of fans on Friday, Dodger fans, that were kicking rocks and felt like they lost the battle due to some fake news, but it's real. It's happening. So anyway, let's bring on our next guest, our friend Max Muncy of the Dodgers, joining us right now. I want to see the smile. What's the smile when you checked your phone? There it is. There it is. Come on. How pumped are you right now, dude?
Yeah, it was a pretty exciting day. I actually didn't find out right away. I was putting the kids to sleep or putting them down for a nap. I don't remember what time of day it was, but my wife came upstairs and was like, "Hey, how do you feel about playing with Shohei?" And she didn't give me any details, so I thought it was pretty cool. And then I had some text messages. David Vassay reached out, wanted me to come on, but I was busy with the kids, and that's when I saw it was 10 years, 700 million. And I was like, "Oh man, that's a lot of money."
Wow. Okay. So then what? Who did you call? Who did you text? Like, is it teammate group text action? Is it phone calls to some of your closer friends on the squad? What happens after that? Because obviously we've been following this story, and I know you have too, for a long time.
Yeah, the Dodgers group chat was blowing up pretty good. Everyone was going crazy about it. There's a lot of things being said. I'm not going to repeat any of those. That's for the boys to hear. So. But it was going nuts, yeah.
Did Freddie say now he doesn't have to pay for any more meals?
I think a couple people said something along those lines, yeah.
Nice.
I mean, you got Freddie and Mookie. Which one? I mean, there's those two. You. I mean, it's not like you guys have a bunch of rookies that haven't
Max
made
ain't
any
paying
money.
anything.
Well, I mean, you did just sign a new 2-year deal, so I mean, he said. Remember, when we congratulated him on his 2-year deal, he said, "Oh yeah, I took less to sign Shohei." So that that $675 million you took less went right to Shohei.
Yeah, I thought about texting Andrew that actually, but I figured I'd wait till spring to drop that one on him.
Did you want to, or have you yet communicated with Dave Roberts and said, "Take a deep breath, dude. You can talk about whatever you want again"?
I think he knows that, which I didn't understand the whole craze behind that anyways. I don't understand why that became such a big deal just from, I don't follow a lot of it, but my understanding was he said that they had a meeting and then everyone freaked out about that. Like, how was that news? Everyone knew he was going to have a meeting with the Dodgers. It's not like that was some secret out there,
Well, I'll give a little more context, okay? So, we had multiple reports, and we can get to the fake news part, but the legit MLB insiders, like top of the biz, okay? Ken Rosenthal, Jeff Passan, both talked about how there were conversations about keeping it very hush-hush. And so I think because Ohtani is so freaking big and the prize of maybe baseball history in terms of free agency, that teams were like taking it too far, right? I mean, I think some teams took it like, hey, if we say anything, maybe he holds it against us, because that is how it was at least construed from insiders. So do you think that caused the mass hysteria because you don't want to be the person that says too much, even if he really didn't care that much? We don't know because we don't get a lot of transparency on the behind the scenes stuff.
I mean, I guess I can see that, but to me, it was just one of those things where, everyone in the world knew there was a meeting happening. So I didn't see why that was a big deal.
Are you going to have a meeting with Doc if you are hitting fourth and he's hitting third? Shouldn't you, with your incredible on-base percentage, be hitting in front of him, and then he just gets to knock all three of you guys in?
I'm just going to be happy to be in that lineup with the amount of superstars we got. So wherever they want to put me, I'm not going to complain about that one.
But is there a thing to stacking those guys? Like stacking Freddie left, you left, Shohei left, or is it something that you guys kind of are excited to see how that goes?
Traditionally, I know that we've always liked going left, right, left with the guys that play every day. If there's certain guys that you switch out when a lefty comes in, they usually don't care as much about that. But traditionally, we've always gone left, right, left. So I'd imagine they'd find a way to keep that the same.
You guys are a little left-hand heavy now, though. You, Freddie, Lux when he comes back, right? Jason Hayward, Outman. I mean, someone's going to break. Will Smith's going to have to be the guy that gets all those tough righties, but he's also going to be a nice spot because they're going to bring in the lefty to face three of you four. So he's going to be up there going, here we go, boys. I mean,
yeah, I think a lot of our righties are going to be smiling a lot of the time. So, we do have a lot of lefties, but the righties that they'll get more than their fair share against a couple of lefties.
Max, did you follow Friday when we had some fake news about Ohtani flying to Toronto, but that ended up being the Shark Tank dude? And then you had another report out there, and these are people that have, BBWAA cards or whatever, right? Like, it's not just a rando fan. These are people that work in the industry. And then since then, obviously, they were chastised by their colleagues in the industry being like, I get it, we're on this rush to be first, but it's a bad miss because you had Toronto freaking out, right? Fans thinking they got him. And we're doing our show live Friday. We have a ton of people watching, and Dodger fans are in there like doing eulogies. Like, I spent my whole year following this. All I wanted was Shohei. It's over. And it wasn't over. He didn't make his decision yet.
I feel like with any big trade or big signing, this always happens. If you look at last year, was it the arson judge incident? There's all sorts of things that happen, especially with trades. They say one thing's done. I remember before we got Scherzer, I thought it was a done deal. He was going to the Padres. You always have to wait until the final details come out. I feel like the preliminary reports don't always get it right.
What's the first thing you tell Shohei or say to Shohei besides welcome? You can have Joe Kelly's number. Do you learn a Japanese phrase and then because I can teach you Japanese. I know one really good phrase in Japanese if you want to learn it.
I don't know. I haven't decided on that one yet. I think that'll be just a wing it spur of the moment type thing. Because the first time that I see him, I'm sure it's going to be, people will be showing him around the facility, and it'll be a lot of stuff going on. So it'll just be a quick hey. But the next time will be when maybe I'll drop something on him. We'll see. I haven't come to that conclusion yet.
The first time is when you need to drop this on him. Listen. Oh, nada data.
What does that mean?
I just farted.
Oh, okay.
That's a great way. You don't even have to say like Ohayo gozaimasu. Like, you don't have to try to be just, or you could say onara shita. Onara shita would be, did you just fart? So that's a good go-to. It'll break the ice.
Okay, I'll remember that.
Yeah. He's like, thanks, Kratz. Good to know. Eric Kratz.
No, I'll remember it. Yeah, it'll be a good one.
It is a good one, though. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Max, do you have Shohei's phone number yet? Have you reached out to him? I mean, are you not calling traveling secretary saying, hey, listen, man, I need a when they play the game, who's the most famous person on your phone, you call the traveling secretary and say, hey, listen, I need Shohei's phone number. I just want to reach out to him and say, welcome, and I'll show you around, and you can buy me dinner.
And I haven't done that yet, but that will be a good name to drop when people ask who the most famous person you have on your phone is. I feel like it's gonna be hard to beat Shohei in terms of famousness now.
Wait, so who would be the most famous right now if the traveling secretary doesn't give you Shohei's number?
Oh, I don't know.
Non-teammate.
I got Rob Lowe's number. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
There you go. From meeting him at a Dodger game.
Yeah, he's a big Dodger fan. He's I actually dumped a bunch of beer on him after one of our playoff wins. He was in the club. He was in the clubhouse sitting in the corner, and I said, "Hey, if you're going to be in here, you got to have a good time." And so I started pouring a bunch of beer all over him.
That's awesome. How did he react to it?
He said he loved it. Who knows? He claims it was one of the best nights he had. But you guys have seen it when you're part of those beer showers after you win a playoff game. It's a pretty special moment. It's something that no one ever takes for granted, and it's fun to be a part of that. So I'm sure he really enjoyed it.
No, Max, no Magic Johnson, no Mary Hart, no Jason Bateman. He comes to a lot of games. You're going with Rob Lowe.
Yeah, well, I don't have their numbers. I've met a lot of them, but I don't have any of their numbers. I have Rob Lowe's number, and so I'll go with that one.
I mean, you have Freddie. You have Mookie. You got Joe Davis. He's kind of famous now. Yeah, I know, but he's been there. Think about it. He's been there when Mookie's come. He's been there when Freddie's come. He's been there when Shohei come. You're like the old grizzled vet now. All right, you're like, oh, another superstar to hit with me. Oh man, this is getting old news now.
No, it never gets old. It's extremely fun, and it's a blessing to be a part of it. And I'm happy I get to do it for a couple more years.
Yeah, and there's something in common here. All of those times that big superstars land with the Dodgers, you're there. So how much did you guys talk about the potential of Shohei joining your squad throughout the last year? Like we had Mookie on at one point talking about it, and he was doing like the light recruiting, because you can't do the total recruiting when he's on another team, but the light recruiting about how cool it would be to play with him. So did you guys talk a lot about it? And it seemed like no one really knew what he was thinking, but a lot of people did put the Dodgers as the front runner based on the fact that he wants to win. And you guys no one can guarantee playoffs, right, Max? But you guys have been in the playoffs year after year, more so than any other ball club over the past decade. And that stands out to a player that has been coming from a team now where he's never played October baseball yet. He's never played October playoff baseball.
Yeah, it's something that, I give Andrew a lot of credit for. He doesn't he keeps us in the position to be in the playoffs every single year. He doesn't ever trade away the farm. It's something that we've always got guys coming up that are able to help us immediately, and we're always bringing in guys, whether free agency or trades. And it's fun to know that you're going to have a chance to win every single year. And as far as Shohei, I think that was something that no one really talked about heavily, other than what kind of deal do you think he was going to get. And I don't think anyone ever would have guessed 700. I think the most I remember anyone guessing was 500, but no one really talked about it too much. It was always just, little things here and there about what we thought he was going to get. And, obviously you think about it, but I don't think we talked about it a ton.
Through the 10 years of his contract, Shohei's contract, you won't be there for all 10. You'll be there for maybe 5 or 6 of them, maybe-ish. Is that a fair number?
I'd love that. That'd be great, yeah.
How many World Series championships or appearances, either way, would make a $700 million contract worth it?
That's a tough question, because I've been seeing that from the projection of sales and sponsors and marketing and all that, the deal is going to pay for itself in just a couple of years. That's without World Series. So I don't know. I mean, I think you obviously hope that you get a couple of World Series throughout that time. And that's the whole reason that he signed with us, is he's hoping to get a couple World Series out of that.
So wait, are the Dodgers now the favorite to win the NL?
I'm not in the business of making those predictions. I
go hell yeah! Say hell yeah, dude.
I go out there and play.
Oh, come on. Yeah, I mean, listen, the Dodgers have been good for years. I mean, I know it's hard to say, but I mean, listen, if I'm on that team, I'm like, Boys, let's strap it on. We're going not 162. We're going another month.
I mean, I might be thinking something different, but I'm not gonna. I don't like putting things out there. So
Did he make the right choice? Because the whole storyline was he wants to go somewhere to win. You guys have been to the playoffs. Is there any reason he would have made the wrong choice going to the Dodgers? And that's if his number one goal is to win.
No, I don't think so. We're putting ourselves in a position to be in the playoffs every single year, and obviously we got to figure out a couple of things when we get to the playoffs. But we're there, and that's more than half the battle is just getting there. And so we put ourselves in a good position to do that every single year. So yeah, he definitely made the right decision.
What's next? Because I mean, even Andrew Friedman has said, yeah, we got to make sure we got our pitching down tight. And there's been, some potential exits. There's injuries. There's a young staff that I think was put to the test pretty quickly last year. And yeah, when we got to the postseason, it was a problem for the team. I don't think that's a secret. So do you expect to see some pitching additions to add to the depth of the staff?
I'm sure the front office has some things up their sleeves, and I just like to let it play out because I know that they're gonna put all the pieces together to make this as good a team as they possibly can. We've got several guys, in their primes right now, and I know they don't want to waste that. So, I have good faith in them that they're gonna put the best pieces together.
Hey, what about Clayton Kershaw, who I think since we talked to you last came out and announced the shoulder situation. So he likely wouldn't be back until later on this coming season. Have you spoken to him at all this offseason? And would it be weird, shocking, crazy to see him end up signing with a different ball club? Like, it hasn't come together yet, and that doesn't mean that it wouldn't come together. And I'm sure there's obviously mutual interest, but I mean, he's from Texas. People have always been throwing that out there for years. Could he end up with the Rangers?
For me personally, I would find it extremely shocking that he doesn't come back as a Dodger. But, I would also understand it, with him and his family being from Dallas and, his kids all getting a little older, being in school and stuff. It's a big decision to possibly come back to LA. But for me, I think being a Dodger does mean a lot to him. Obviously, I can't speak for him, but from what I've seen, I think being a Dodger does mean a lot. And I don't think he enjoyed how things ended in the playoffs last year, and so I think that does mean a little bit to him. But I would be shocked to see him in another uniform. But obviously, I can't speak for him. I don't know what's going through his head and going through his family's minds, because I know he never makes the decision on his own. He's very family based on that. So I could see it, but I would just be shocked.
Max, are you prepared for what's going to come with this Shohei storm when it hits? First day of spring training, he walks in. There's going to be way more media, way more people, way more fanfare. And then the other thing is he doesn't really talk that much to the media. So are you ready? Because he really only talks after he pitches, and he's not pitching this year. So are you guys ready, and you personally ready for going to have to answer some more questions?
I actually haven't even thought about that aspect of it. You bringing that up, that's the first time that I've even thought about that, and that's a very good point, because it is going to be it's going to be a
shit show. It's going to be a shit show.
it's
Camelback Ranch is going to be an absolute shit show this year. You're going to have one side, the White Sox, with 2 reporters, and then you're going to have the other side of Camelback Ranch with the Dodgers with 7 million people there watching every move you guys make.
Yeah, they might have to make some quick renovations to CBR. It's a very open facility in terms of getting to the backfields and getting to the main field. There's a lot of fans back there. That's how they've always liked it. They love to have the fan interaction with the players, but they might have to make some quick renovations because there's going to be a lot of people back there this year.
Have you ever played with a Japanese? Remind me, I'm trying to go through the teams in my mind. A Japanese star, obviously not as big as Shohei, but has Dodgers had anybody while you were there?
Yeah, we had Kenta. We had Kenta for a couple of years.
Was the following around him? Was there a large contingent of Japanese reporters that were always following him?
Yeah, always. And then with Hyunjin, there was a large contingent of Korean reporters, and when Hyunjin was with us, we were constantly told that we were the number one thing in Korea. Every time that Hyunjin pitched, they aired his game on every single channel in Korea, pretty much, is what we'd been told. So obviously those two aren't to the extent that Shohei, but we've experienced a little bit of it before.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Playing with Tanaka, like there was games, obviously didn't play a lot, but there was games where if you were around, they would want to ask you a question about what you saw. And I wouldn't even catching bullpens. So it's a residual thing. Like it will cavalcade, it will roll downhill to you. Like, hey, you were hitting 2 places behind him. What's it like to hit behind Shohei?
I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of those questions that year, and that goes along with what y'all were just saying about it's going to be a lot different this year. It is going to be a shit show, in the words of AJ there.
Max,
will you and Shohei be in the same BP group?
I don't know. I don't know if he's a BP guy or if he's a hit in the cage guy. Everyone's different. I feel like nowadays it's getting more and more to guys don't like hitting out on the field. I've played with plenty of teammates that they don't like hitting out on the field. So I don't know what kind of guy he is when it comes to that.
Kratz, I'm trying to think of how we can help Max capitalize off this. So the Dodgers are the biggest team in Korea, thanks to Ryu. If they weren't already, they're definitely going to be the biggest team in Japan. So maybe next off season, you do a little tour out there, you do some signings. Like I'm telling you, I bet after this coming season, if you went out to South Korea or to Japan or to both, and you're walking around the street, you're going to get stopped consistently. It's Max Muncy of the Dodgers. Max Muncy's here. So
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe you end up getting an endorsement deal out there from it or something.
I wouldn't mind that. I'll say whenever you have the players come from Korea or Japan, they always are rocking the coolest gear. They always have the coolest looking stuff. All their equipment's made out of like patent leather. It all just looks really, really cool. So that wouldn't be the worst thing.
Max, start with Korea, because you know where you open the season next year?
Mm-hmm.
In Korea, yeah.
Yeah, so I would start your agent calling around to Korea saying, hey, we got Shohei now. It's time for me to cash in a little bit. I'm going to be hitting behind him. I'm going to be driving him in. We're going to be high-fiving when I hit homers. Hey, I don't know. Hey, let's go. Let's start in Korea. That first series, the only thing it might be bigger is if it started, obviously, in Japan. But, Korea is not that far from Japan. There is going to be a lot of people in Korea looking for you guys.
Yeah, it's I think we'll have to maybe add a little bit to our security team this year.
Also on the social media side, Max, and I know you're not like all over it, but on Instagram, Lars Nootbaar became a star. I think he has a 7-figure following on Instagram from playing with Shohei for Team Japan in the World Baseball Classic. So just want to let you know you might have a lot more action there, a lot more fans, which is not the worst thing.
Yeah, I've been pretty off it. I might have to get back into those things.
I would. Kratz, any advice? So cooler. It sounds great. Cooler stuff. You're an international celebrity, more followers, potentially more endorsement deals. These are the kind of ripple effects that we're talking about with a global superstar.
Advice from me?
Yeah, you said you played with Tanaka. I
played with Tanaka, but I was ambushed by it. I had no idea that it was like how it was.
And you just ambushed him because Max said I haven't even thought about it yet, and that's why we do this show, so you guys, as former players, can talk him through what's going on and what's about to happen.
Listen, we beat the Indians in Game 5 of the ALDS, and Masa was giving an interview in front of Japanese television, and we were spraying champagne everywhere, and he was sitting down for a formal interview at whatever it was, 12 o'clock at night, and I went behind him. So I was basically on Japanese live television, and I said, I just farted in Japanese. Like, you think I'm the person to give advice to Max? Max, like, you need to take this for what it is and just enjoy the ride. Just watch the show because it is incredible.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm really excited just to see him on a everyday basis. Just getting to play against him a couple of times over the years. It's always fun because you're always just waiting. What's going to happen today, and you obviously don't want him to do anything too big against your team, but you're kind of hoping that something cool happens. And it's one of those things where there's very few people in this game that you can expect something cool out of on a daily basis, and he's definitely one of them. You just don't know what he's going to do. He's just a unicorn when it comes to that kind of stuff.
All right, so here's my one advice I'll give you. I never played with someone on the level of Shohei. No one has, obviously, except for the Angels guys. Spring training, Camelback Ranch, just ask the clubhouse guy to put his locker at the far other end, so that way you can get dressed in peace and they don't bother you, right? And then, during the season, it's a little more controlled, but in spring training, everyone just rushes in. So just make sure the clubhouse guy puts you at, say, the left end and you're all the way at the right. That way you can just come and go. Nobody notices you. Everyone's down there, and then you're in and out, done. Get your work in and get out.
Yeah, that is a good piece of advice. I'll have to relay that onto to Alex. Maybe we'll give him his own locker room. Just he can have all the space he wants.
Hopefully
that could have been something negotiated into his contract. Who knows?
You never know. We haven't gotten all the details yet. So hopefully this was a helpful session to talk to these dudes. Max, great to have you on. Great to see the smile. And also cool for, I'm sure, many in the Dodgers org that this is done. Like, he's there. They can focus on what's next and all of that. So thanks for swinging by, dude. Keep crushing the off season. All right?
Yeah. I'm excited to see what happens with free agency now. I think everyone was waiting for the big domino to fall, and now I think it's going to be a whirlwind of moves that happen pretty quickly. So I'm excited to see, where everyone's going to go for this year.
99% or so of free agents haven't signed yet, which is insane, right? Which is fine. I mean, it's been fun for us to talk about all of this, and now it's like, okay, let the rest of the offseason begin. It's December 11th. So you're right. It's a good call.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of probably friends and colleagues and peers in the industry who are sitting at home like, okay, my turn.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting to see. It'll be fun to see the deals that guys are gonna get now that Shohei's off the table.
He set the market nicely too. I know no one's Shohei, but it's the game is thriving. We'll put it that way. So Max, great to have you on, dude.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you again later this offseason. All right.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate you, Max Muncy, with us. A very happy Los Angeles Dodger. And then we're going to talk to former Rockies GM and MLB analyst Dan O'Dowd coming up in just a few minutes here about Ohtani, the rest of the frenzy that's going on right now in free agency. And I'll sneak in a report while we have a few minutes. Buster Olney saying that the Giants met yesterday with Yamamoto. He's got a lot of big market teams bidding for his services. We call this in the industry the perfect storm. And this is a storm that you almost never see, because we almost never see Mets and Yankees shopping for the same player at the top of a market, because he's at the top of the current free agent pitching market. Then the other factor, AJ, like you mentioned before, is that I feel like there are teams like the Giants that are in desperation mode. And every time a guy like Ohtani, like now Yamamoto, doesn't end up signing with the Giants, they take a massive PR blow, because it's like, when is it our turn to get one of these players as a large market team that usually likes to spend on our franchise and hasn't done it correctly in a while?
Oh, let's not forget Arson Judge was almost a Giant. Let's not forget that Carlos Correa was a Giant for a minute. I mean, they've been trying. No one knows what their bid was for Ohtani. We have to assume they did bid for Ohtani, right? Again, it was kind of like Juan Soto, like we talked about earlier. The Yankees, they had to go get him. It feels like the Mets or the Giants need Yamamoto more than the other teams do to appease fan bases, to appease whatever they want to call it, the yearning of Steve Cohen to win. Maybe he just doesn't want to go there, though. That's that's the thing. Maybe he just doesn't want. There's been a long line of guys that haven't gone to San Francisco. We don't know why, but maybe he just doesn't want to go there. Maybe he wants to go play with Ohtani in LA. Maybe he wants to go play with Senga in New York. Maybe he wants to go to the Yankees. I don't know. I mean, we have Dan O'Dowd coming on. He's a former GM. He can talk about like how it goes wooing free agents of this level and this magnitude and what they need to tell them to hear to to get him to come there. It just seems like San Francisco hasn't been able to put the final stamp on it to get him to come.
Well, let's jump right into that then with our friend Dan O'Dowd joining us for the first time here on FT Live. Dan, great to see you, and love the vest. Win reality action right there.
Supporting the company here, yeah.
Of course, as you should, which we can get into. We can mix that in. There's actually Dodger ties to that. We know many Dodgers have had some success on the win reality front. But first off, just to play off what AJ said, even if a team has the highest offer, I mean, you've been behind the scenes before. Sometimes a player just doesn't want to sign with a particular team. So what is the psychology process behind trying to lure in a free agent?
Sure. Well, first of all, guys, thanks for having me on, and congratulations for your success. You guys are just killing it, and it's really noticeable in the industry how well you're doing, and it's great for our game. So keep it going. Honestly, I don't think it takes too long into the negotiations to really understand whether you have a shot or not at a particular free agent. And I also think it goes a lot into the representative that he has. Like in Joel Wolf's case, I've done a lot of deals with Joel. That's Yamamoto's agent. Joel never really was a guy focused on really just the last dollars, always what the best fit was for his client, both on and off the field, and where he thought he'd be the happiest. So all of those factors go into when you're talking to a free agent. Honestly, it doesn't take very long into a negotiation to really understand if you have a legitimate shot or whether you're just going to be used as a stalking horse to get the kind of dollars he wants to from another organization. So, I don't know this particular free agent, but again, and I know Joel well, and I know that he doesn't necessarily recommend to his client anyway. Client can always do what they want to do, to take the last dollar that's on the table.
These negotiations, I'm always intrigued by these monster contracts. Do you think there was a higher number than 700 put in there, or do you think it was a situation? Is it a situation where the agent says, we want at least this much because these guys gave us this much? Or I always feel like it's like, okay, we want 710, we'll give you 690, let's settle in the middle. Tell us how does that process work?
Kratz, I think it's different in every situation. There might have been more hard dollars on the table. We'll have to see what Shohei's contract looks like after we actually examine the deferrals and what the net present value of the dollars are today. There might have been some offers that weren't loaded with the deferrals the Dodger has had. But, I really admire the play. He's getting $700 million. He may just not get it right away. But he really understands that it's difficult to build a winning team when too much of your aggregate payroll goes to too few of players because, it is a team sport. And in our case, you need depth of almost 40 anymore to win during the course of the season. In most negotiations, Kratz, I think it is, depending upon, again, the representative. There's certain guys in the game that start ridiculously high with their client, that they're just on a fishing expedition, and you're just going to play that out and along. I think it's really important. Like what's fascinating to me and listening to you guys talk a little bit in your earlier shows is that, I don't see a redirect of Ohtani's money going to all these other free agents. Like I think Yamamoto is in a different category. But I think the rest of the free agents are going to be valued based upon the club's valuation and what they're worth to their individual teams. I just think because you've earmarked X dollars for that particular player doesn't mean you're going to turn around with that exact same money and give it to another player. I think each valuation is going to be done independently on each player.
So Dan, the Blue Jays, if you're the GM, if you're Ross Atkins right now, are you just feeling used? Because you mentioned it, you get a pretty good feeling whether they're using you or not. They flew him into Dunedin. He came and made a tour. Whatever he did down there, I don't know what they talked about. No one knows except for them. But do they feel used right now? Do they feel like they were the pawn that Shohei used to get him this money from the Dodgers? And then how do you prevent that? Because you can't just be like, oh, we're out on Shohei because, we think he might be using us. But damn, what happens if he actually does want to come to Toronto?
Yeah, it's like saying I'm never going to date because I don't want to get my heart broken. You just got to jump into the water and you got to swim. And if you believe in the player, you got to put your best foot forward, and you've got to tell him why your particular club is what you feel is logical and best fit for him. Knowing going into these things, more than likely, you're going to lose out. It's the nature of free agency. I think everyone knew that the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers have been waiting in the weeds on this for a year. I think they've done their marketing analysis, their business plan analysis. I think they've had this all teed up. I don't think they were going to lose dollar-wise. Maybe they could have lost because he didn't want to go there. But I think if you're the Blue Jays, you definitely had plan B, C, D, and E in place, and we're going to see them now pivot to what those plans are. The difficult problem that all the teams are having in the game right now is all those plans involve Scott Boras because he is, controlling the bulk of the market. I think he's waiting on his pitchers to see what Yamamoto gets, because he's going to feel that Snell and Montgomery are as good as Yamamoto. And so it's the same thing with Cody Bellinger. And so I just feel like, when there's a comparable self-worth involved in these negotiations, they have a tendency to drag a little bit until there's a realization of what the market's going to offer. And you're going to have to decide based upon what the market's telling you it's willing to spend.
Dan, are other owners in Major League Baseball mad right now that the Dodgers went out and made this offer and signed them to this? And I'm not saying, like the Pirates or the A's, because they never seem like they're going to play in big boy land. But the Yankees, Mets, even the Blue Jays, Giants. I mean, this is almost a landscape-changing deal for Major League Baseball. I know it's once in a forever how many years you want to make it, but this is a landscape-changing deal. Because guess what? Guess who's a free agent next year? Juan Soto. He's already turned down $440 million allegedly. So is he going to get to 500?
AJ, I think what it is, it further complicates the landscape between large market, mid market, small market teams. I don't think the large market clubs will probably look at it the same way the mid and small market clubs will, to show the disparity and being able to spend on elite talent. I do think Ohtani really is an outlier. I just don't think we've ever seen a player in this game that's like, he's the Messi of our sport. He's an international icon. I think there's ways to generate dollars around this player that we've never seen with a baseball player alone. I think he made $25 or $30 million in endorsement deals. The next highest one was Mike Trout at $5 million. I think he's unique, and I think they're going to look at that as a unique outlier. But I do think it exasperates the problems that have always existed in the history of our game between markets that are based upon size and market spends. I'll tell you what, for me, what it does, it just keeps getting back, guys. Like, man, if you don't scout and develop well in our game, you got no chance to compete. And everything leads back to that. The Dodgers can do this because they scout and develop well. Ohtani on his own with a team that didn't have an infrastructure in place of good young players wouldn't make an impact like he's going to make with the Dodgers. So it just gets back to that. Everything gets back to your ability to identify talent and develop talent. If you do that poorly, I don't care what your market size is, you're screwed.
He didn't really talk much, but the inclination that we got was Shohei wanted to win. Did he go to the right team?
I do think you're right, Kratzy.
Did he go to the right team?
I think there's sustainability of success there. Yeah. I mean, I think there were other teams that were set up just as well, but I mean, the Braves are set up as well as anybody can be in the game with the infrastructure they have in place. And even they're going to have some pitching issues to deal with as they matriculate with their young players. But I mean, the Dodgers just have this wherewithal to draft later in the first round and develop those guys into either solid contributors or fringy, impact guys. And there's just not a team in the game that's done that well. And then they've shown the propensity to spend when the opportunity was there to spend. And so if he wants to win over the next 10 years, the Dodgers may not win all the 10 years, but I think they're going to be in a position to compete. And he simply wasn't even in that position with the Angels.
Dan, how do you grade the way that the Angels handled Shohei Ohtani as a player during that time period? And you can go anywhere you want to go, including when his name popped up.
Yeah, I don't think it was good, Scotty. I two guys you're on the show with realize every professional sport is a team sport. But, man, you're a team sport in baseball for me more than anything. And I always believe that some of the parts are greater than the individual parts, and culture is more important than any algorithm that you're going to create. I just think they kind of let Shohei's train kind of get away from the other 25 guys that were caboose to him on the club. And I think it created less than a team. And I think they underachieved years. I'm not saying that's Shohei's issue. I just feel like it's always about the team. It's never about one player. I mean, I'm okay with pitching one day a week and rearranging schedules. I'm just not okay with holding him at a different set of accountability parameters and standards as you did with everybody else on the club, because then everybody else on the club feels like, well, I don't have to disclose injuries and I don't have to talk to the media and I don't have to do this and I don't do that. And I just think it was handled. I don't think it was handled as well as it could possibly be. Now, listen, I've never had a player as good as this guy. So who's to know how I might handle him? But I've been around a lot of good players in Cleveland with John, and I've been around fortunate enough to be around good players in Colorado. And Jimmy Leland had the best line of the winter meetings for me when he said, you tell the player the truth, and you lose him for 24 hours. If you don't tell the players the truth, you lose him for his entire career. And I just feel like the one thing I think that I always tried to do was tell players the truth. And whether they liked it or not, it wasn't up to me as long as I was authentically telling the truth. I'm not sure anybody's ever really done that in LA with Shohei as it relates to how he needed to fit into the total team. Now, the guy played hard and he posted and he performed. But Erik and AJ, there's just more to it than just that in between the white lines.
Well, that leads to my next question. When he does pitch again, which is assuming is supposed to be 25, 6-man rotation, so you got to find an extra starter, which gives guys more rest. Guys aren't used to it, right? You lose the opportunity, say Freddie Freeman's a little sore with his hamstring or Mookie Betts. They can't DH because you have Shohei as the DH. It kind of limits your roster, and that's why the one question I always wondered is the Angels gave this guy everything he wanted, right? 6-man rotation, automatic DH, basically did whatever he wanted. Don't talk to the media, hit inside, really never go outside and hit. You're going to LA on the biggest contract in the history of professional sports. Some of that is going to have to change, is it not?
I hope so, AJ, and I hope they address that all up front. I think it's problematic when you address things after the fact. I hope in the coveted desire to sign him that they didn't address these issues, because the Dodgers have done a really good job at that. I mean, they have been a consummate team, and Dave Roberts has set standards. I even think Dave at the winter meetings last week when he said, "Hey, I know, I'm not lying to the media. Yeah, we talked to the guy." I thought that was good. He stepped up and he told the truth. And so I hope they had all these conversations up front, because it's going to be problematic to ask Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts to do something you're not asking Shohei to do. That's just not going to work. And the other supporting cast around that's going to see that. And I think they'll lose a little bit of the fabric that makes them so special. So my belief is they probably address that up front. But again, I wasn't part of those discussions. But I hope they did, AJ, because I do think it's a problem. If in the long run, I do think it's a problem.
What if he doesn't pitch? This is an AJ question. What if he doesn't pitch? Because he's really good at hitting. He's really good at pitching, but he hasn't really broke from hitting. He's broken from pitching. What if is there a possibility there could be a caveat in his contract? Like, hey, you don't pitch, this could happen. I've never seen anything like that.
Again, I'm not a big WAR guy as I do analysis, but look at it this way. If Fangraphs had this guy at a 6.6 WAR, personally for me, had an 180 OPS plus last year, I think he's just starting to come into his prime as a hitter. I have no reason to believe in my evaluation, viewpoint anyway, right or wrong, is that this guy wouldn't be elite defensive right fielder. He's got plus sprint speed, top 25% of the game. His arm strength was plus before the surgery. I have no reason to believe from right field it wouldn't be plus. I mean, I think we're looking at an 8 to 9 WAR player. And if you just want to just do the pure math and just do the way that all the guys in front office evaluate contract, you're still looking at, $8.5 to $9 million a year is the value of one WAR. Even at $70 million discounted down to, I think it's going to end up where around 50, 55, they're still getting a return on their investment, not even contemplating how much he may return to them from a brand standpoint. So I don't think it's the end of the world if he doesn't pitch again. I actually think it would make him a better hitter and better all-around player. But I realize that's not going to happen. He's going to try to do everything he can pitch again. But if it didn't, to me, I still feel like you're looking at one of the more elite offensive players we've seen in a long time in our game.
That's the best answer I've heard. I know that's the question I ask everybody. So thank you, Dan. That's honestly one of the best answers, because I've said all along, what happens if this dude gets signed just 10-year deal and 1 year in? He's like, I've had 2 elbow surgeries. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm just going to hit. So thank you for making it to where it's understandable. Now, as a former GM, there's some free agents out there, because we've obviously beaten the Shohei train forever, right? We've been riding it since he signed and before he signed. But Cody Bellinger, right, had 2 bad years, had a really good year this year. Matt Chapman with the Blue Jays, he had a great April, and then after that, I mean, he went right. How do you evaluate those guys as a GM and free agency? Do
Sure.
you say, man, we're going to have Bellinger of 23 and we're going to have Matt Chapman of April? Or do you have to look at the whole picture and say, oh, man, this might drive their value down?
I do think you do all that, AJ. I think there's common characteristics that you like or don't like in every player. I think that gets back to your ability to understand what you like about players. I loved your ability to bring the bat to the ball, so I valued that as a catcher over power. I love the energy level you brought behind the plate. In Kratz's case, I loved how he was emotionally connected to his catchers, things that I valued a lot in a catcher. So when you look at each player, I think it gets back to the common characteristics that you believe in. In Bellinger's case, for me, I think the injury that he had was the hardest injury for a position player to come back from in the game. I've had like multiple players go through a subluxed shoulder separation, and it changes movement patterns from an offensive standpoint. As simple as that may sound, when your shoulder gets tightened up like that, all of a sudden, some of your movement patterns that you did just don't feel natural again, and you begin to have trouble finding your slot. And I think you then panic a little bit. I think that's what happened with him. I also feel like there was some maturity issues, like a lot of young players have had, that I think, he has now settled down a little bit. And I like the fact that you make the adjustments. Like we talk about his exit velocity, but for me, when you look at his plus counts, exit velocity, if you just want to focus on that term, I look at more like how's the ball come off his bat. It was exceptional. I think league average was 89. I think he sat at 92. Just in plus counts, any plus count. In down counts, it was well below average. That's because he made a conscious effort to actually put the ball in play. He hit 279 with 2 strikes. He didn't do any of that the year before. So I'm cracking up at our game now because now he's getting penalized because his aggregate exit velocity is below league average when the guy simply made some great adjustments to put the ball in play when he was in negative counts, which I look at that as a real positive sign. So I'm a Cody Bellinger fan because I feel like you're going to get plus defense at 2 different positions, one of them in the middle of the diamond. He's a plus base runner. That now has shown me the ability to make adjustments coming back from a catastrophic injury. Saying all that, there's just no way I'm paying him like 10, 12-year deals that are out there. I'm still, more in that. He's 28 years old. I'd love to sign him to a 7-year deal. But I think he's going to bring value to a club because I do think he's a little bit of a complete ball player. In Matt Chapman's case, you got to buy what he is. It's not going to change. You're going to get elite defense at third base. And you're going to get power production out of the position. He's going to be 110 to 115 OPS plus guy, 10 to 15% better than league average. And now you just have to price him accordingly, not what the agent's going to price him at, what you feel his value is, and then you're comfortable walking away from it if it turns out to be something that you don't feel you can live with.
How can the Orioles and Reds turn their offseason around by making the decision to actually go in with the prospects that they have, which, we're talking about Shohei's contract here. Like, oh, well, we can never do that. Woe is us. Like, it's a pity party, but yet neither organization is looking to sell I guess Angelos might be looking to sell, but for a loss. Nobody's looking to sell their organization for a loss. So how can they change their fortunes around? Because the time is now for both of those organizations.
Kratz, you couldn't agree more. I feel like the Orioles in particular, focus on them to begin with. I think they could be the most dominant team in the game over the next 8 to 10 years in our game. That's a long window in our game. But if they had a vision to sign some of their younger players to multi-year contracts, almost similar to what the Brewers just did with their young player, long before they even got here, they would have, if you just go around their diamond, if they just took their money that they haven't spent externally and they just spent it internally on keeping this core group of players together, I think they're going to be a tough get every single year. And then on top of that, there's windows that open and then you just got to take advantage of them. They have so much depth in their position players. And what I felt like with position players, if you hold young players back too long in your minor league system, holding them because you realize you're going to lose player X at some point in time based upon his years of control, you eventually emotionally and mentally lose that player too. and you just can't keep them engaged, and then they regress, and then they have no value. And so they just need to trade some of their excess to add to their starting pitching, add to their bullpen depth, and sign some of their core to what might seem like really large dollars, but it really isn't when you're this talented, of the talent that they have on their team. And I don't feel any differently than the Reds than I do about the Orioles. I don't think they're quite as deep as the Orioles are, but I do think there's an incredible opportunity in a division that's very winnable for a lot of years to come.
Dan, last team I want to ask you about is the Mariners. You know, we have many fans watching us every day, and I would say the angriest fan base right now is probably from M's fans based on not making the playoffs. So what's your take on what they're doing, what their strategy is? And I always think about the trades and the turnover. I know the Rays do that all the time, although they haven't won a World Series. Do you buy the plan here? And I was shocked that their name was out of the Ohtani mix so quickly.
Yeah, Scotty, I look at it like it's December 11th. The report card is not final yet. There's still plenty of time. I understand Jerry's desire to go more contact. Their strikeout rates were unbelievable. Very difficult park in general to build power around, with a lot of swing and misses to score runs consistently, even with some of the dimensional changes they made. And so I get what his vision is to try to put together a club. The reality is there's just not many players out there that fit the criteria that he's looking at, but it is early yet, and I do think they have some disposable money. I do know one of the things we haven't talked a ton about in our game, because it's so uncertain, is what's happened with all of these regional sports networks and how it affects club spending capability, because we just don't know yet. But because we don't know, I'm sure that affects some of their decision-making process too. But it's been a confusing winter so far for what they've done, and but again, it's early in the winter, and it can change very, very quickly. But they need to be aggressive to add some pieces to their club that they currently don't have.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so let's finish with what you're wearing on your vest right there.
Sure.
So I'll let you speak to it and let everyone know, if they're unaware of what Win Reality is, what it is, and how the company has progressed.
Yeah. I mean, it's a virtual reality hitting product. I like to say we're a hitting company. And we are a full-scale hitting company now. It started with a pitch recognition company, but now we're full-scale hitting, where, bulk of our 100,000 users are between the ages of 10 and 14. We do have a ton of major league clubs and a ton of big league players, a ton of college programs. But again, the product is specifically designed, for kids to get comfortable in the box facing live pitching at game speed, as if you were hitting live in the game. Believe me, it's not like hitting live in the game. We can't emulate those emotions, and you can't emulate anything that actually happens in the game. But I'd say in the world of technology, it's the next closest thing. All you need is Wi-Fi. You can do it in the confines of your own home. We're starting to get heavy into biomechanical things now, which I'm a big believer in. I think all the best hitters historically in the game do certain things, and their movement patterns that made them great. We're going to start implementing that and being able to show kids, here's how you move, here's how you should move, here are some drills that can help you move from point A to point B. So we become a whole hitting platform. Scotty, like any other startup, buddy, we've had some great success, and we've had some challenges too along the way. That's simply kind of the way it is when you're starting a new company. And so we're learning a lot. We're very, very excited about our future, but it's a one day at a time thing here too. We're constantly being challenged. I think simply because the technology is so new and people just aren't used to using virtual reality as a mainstream medium from a training standpoint within our country. And I think that will slowly fade over the years. But again, I think we're way ahead of our time in some ways. So we just got to be a little patient too, as it gets integrated into people's thought process. But for young players, like I've got a 21-year-old son that plays University of Texas, and we have a new mode out, and it's called Live Pitch. So I can download onto my app on my phone. He can download any pitcher. And now as a dad, I can sequence him. I could be in Austin. I could be in my home in Nashville. He could be here in Austin in his dorm room, and I can pitch to him live as if I was throwing to him in a cage, except it's live pitches against a live arm. I'm just calling the pitches, and he's got to hit me, and it becomes very emotionally engaging. And he kind of gets pissed off at me, like, there's no way, Dad, anybody would throw a back-to-back 3-2 changeup in that situation. That's just a joke. And so, it's really good. It's gauging, and it's really fun for parents to be able to connect with their kids. Or, those are the kind of products we're starting to run out now that I'm really excited about.
Dan, my son has it, and I must say I had fun. I have fun using it as a former major league player. I mean, it's not as easy as people think it is to hit 95. So I'm glad you came up with something that can somewhat show what it's like. But listen, it's a great product, and like I said, my son has it. He uses it. I've used it a bunch of times. The problem is I walk around the house with this, with a bat, and I start swinging. And you got to make sure you got to have a big enough space because otherwise.
Well, we have a short bat now, AJ, for that.
Okay, good.
Short bat that has the same weight as a regular bat. It's kind of a cool little product too. So you get to feel the weight of the bat in your hands. So because we did have some complaints that people were knocking over some lights, and the moms weren't real happy about some of the damage that we were doing in their houses. But I appreciate you saying that. I mean, it's not a perfect product. There's no technology out there that actually is, and it probably will never be a perfect product. But I'm just really proud of the fact there's so much junk going on out there in our world about hitting, and we just want to start changing the dialogue about the things that are important at hitting, and start getting kids to focus on the understanding of how to be a good hitter and just doing things from a simplistic standpoint. And because it's just some really bad stuff going on in our industry right now about what's being taught to kids about hitting.
Yeah, it's a really candid, great way to put it. And Dan, as you probably know, AJ, likes to cause some trouble here and there. So he's got plenty of room. He's got space.
I'm sure in his mansion of a home in Orlando, he's got plenty of room there.
He's good. He's in good shape. Dan, awesome to catch up with you. We appreciate
guys.
your time.
Yeah, I'm so happy for you guys, man. You're killing it, and you're really doing something really good for our game. So keep it going.
Thank you. Yeah, and the offseason coverage has been cool. I'm telling you. I mean, obviously, there's a lot to cover in our game. There's not a 48-hour signing window, so it's made it fun for us every day. But we appreciate you. This was really
thanks for
fun
having me on, guys. Really appreciate having me on. Okay.
Thank you, Dan. Have a good one. Talk soon. Dan O'Dowd, former general manager for a long time of the Colorado Rockies, obviously still analyst in this game and part of a company that's had a lot of success, frankly, and has come a long way too. Like he said, the technology keeps getting more precise and more incredible, but really cool insight there that I want to spill into one more seg before we get to slap hands, which is fair territory. Okay. And it revolves around Ken, of course, mostly covering the Shohei Ohtani story and really taking you behind the curtain on many fronts. So I want to, kind of put a bow on thoughts with the Angels, because some fans have been asking, how the hell does Mike Trout not get traded at this point? So think about that for a sec. But I do want to show a clip here from Fair Territory as Ken Rosenthal is talking about what really started surfacing on Friday. There was other shenanigans leading up to that point, but Friday got out of control, and that's when it started to piss people off. You know what it actually made me think about was the whole story with, Carissa Thompson. I don't know if anyone's seen it in the sideline reporting, and then you get everyone in the industry kind of popping up to give their take on it, and many people were pretty pissed about it. I felt like that kind of vitriol from some people, because it does hurt their reputation as well. So I think we've got this ready to go. Ken Rosenthal on Fair Territory that just came out today.
I'm not going to sit here on my high horse and tell you I'm the greatest. Like I said earlier, I am not perfect. It's a hard game, man. It's a hard game to be right all the time. It's a hard game simply to just go day by day and grind it out. But I've concluded over the years that journalism has to come first. That's what we're here to do. And the speed is important. The quickness of reporting something. No one can deny it. People want that. And you guys out there telling me we don't care? No, you care. That's why you're on Twitter in the first place. But as much as speed might be important, accuracy and honesty are more important, and they always will be.
Yeah, and shit got out of control on Friday, And it can be kind of dangerous. I mean, not as much in sports, but I mean, you have really upset people when you tell them that the thing that they've been following for a long time did happen, but it didn't happen. I mean, you had one writer come out and say Shohei Ohtani is going to the Blue Jays. That is not true.
It wasn't true, clearly.
Yeah,
it's bad, man. Like we talked about, Kratz, you got to be right first over anything else. And certain people weren't right, and it sucks because people get excited, people change stuff around, and mistakes happen though. Forgive and forget.
This is the biggest signing in our time. Probably will be the biggest signing of our time, most hyped up signing, and we're kind of at the epicenter of it here, trying to report on it, trying to read, what's going on. So we're looking into all this stuff. But you know what? Like, for whoever is putting, for the writer who's putting that out there, he's trusting his source. And hopefully he's trusting his source, or else he's towing a thin line of, well, you're not, your reputation, if you aren't somebody that tells the truth, you've burned that bridge. So that source, if a source told somebody this and then they wrote it, that source can't be trusted. Or if the writer just wrote something just to put it out there because, well, I think this is what's going to happen, now that writer can't be trusted. So it's a prime case of be a man or a woman of your word and go from there.
Yep, well said. And so much more on this on Fair Territory. It's out there right now. If you're a listener over a viewer, although you're watching us right now, you're probably a viewer. It's up on FT YouTube. It's wherever you get your pods. But as you can see, Ohtani ripple effect, what's next for the Dodgers, this topic we just went over, Yamamoto, dudes and dork of the week. And I'll give you a little hint, dork of the week, the Angels pulling down the posters for Ohtani. It's like they were sitting there ready. It's like they knew when the decision was coming. How the hell they got a crane and all of that so quickly? I mean, Artie Moreno, tell me how you really feel. So let's slap. So one question, I mean, there's been a billion, and fans want to know, like, does Trout go on the market now that he's officially gone? And I'm like, no, they knew he was gone. And they said 100% they're not trading him. You have to remember, this is an owner that thinks business first. I know he spent money on the team. Spending money on a team doesn't mean, and on player acquisitions that were some of them wrong, doesn't mean that you know what you're doing. There's a reason why you hire people below you and you let them do their job. That's not been done for a long time. It's a mismanaged franchise, and it starts at the top. So no, they're not trading Mike Trout. Unfortunately, we can't really spend that much time talking about it, guys, because it's not real. It's not going to happen. Good.
That's their main asset they have left, right? So they're not going to get rid of him now.
Exactly.
I mean, as much as it sucks for Mike, and they got to kind of almost start over now, but you got to hope that all your guys hit and Rendon comes back and you find some good free agents on the market that can pitch, and you almost start, I don't want to say a rebuild, but you got to almost start rebuilding the fans' trust a little bit too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's time to start thinking about wins and losses. And I mean, geez, they should have traded Shohei Ohtani when they had the chance. But again, like, they were making too much money off him being there. That's where you have to be real, and that's why this show exists, because we're one of the few places that will tell you that, and it's true. What's on your hat, or what's on your head, I guess I should say.
Well, it was originally going to be where if Shohei needed to do some rehab assignments, the Buffalo Bisons, but the Bisons no longer are going to get a Shohei rehab.
Swing and a miss there. And lastly, everyone that's watching right now, we appreciate you. If you're new to the party, 30K subs, 30,000 subscribers here on YouTube. Obviously, many people consume the show on other spots as well, but we appreciate the YouTube subs in particular. We just hit 30K here this morning. So a lot more coverage, a lot more people, hopefully part of the FT fam over the months, over the years that we do this. So thank you very much. And yeah, there's still a ton of free agency left to go. So keep it right here. We're here every day for you, as usual, every weekday with more FT Live. Back tomorrow on FT YouTube channel at 1 o'clock Eastern time. And maybe we spend a little less time on Ohtani. We can kind of focus on some other dudes. I don't know. We'll try. Unless he pops up with a press conference, then sorry, we're talking about it. I got to hear from this guy. So we'll see you on Tuesday on FT Live.